Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video, looking at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, this takes us to the 28th of June, so almost going to the end of the month with this update. June so far has been quite a chilly month really, but it's also been fairly dry, so it's been an odd sort of month really, cool and dry. It's fairly unusual for a summer month. Typically we like to have it dry and warm, or wet and cool, so to have it dry and cool is quite unusual. It doesn't happen all that often that we get a month like this. But as I say, it has been generally quite dry, but we are seeing indications that next week we could see a further deterioration in the pattern, and it may turn more unsettled next week with some rain coming through. And of course this is coinciding with the Glastonbury Festival and also with the start of Wimbledon, so always an important time to have good weather at the end of June. And it does look as though things could really be going downhill a little bit as we go into next week. We'll have a look at the charts in a moment, but before I get on with that, just mention the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages at gazwords.com. Have a browse through the widgets. If there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You have to go off and read the article, and thanks so much for doing that. There's video ads on most pages. They open out within the content once you watch them, and they're very short, so once you watch them, they'll close back up again, only last a few seconds. So, excuse me, thanks for getting involved, and doing that, it's helping to pay for the website. So, we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next 7 to 10 days. As I say, this takes us more or less up towards the end of June, up to the 28th of the month. Got the E70UF here on the left, and the GFS is over on the right of the screen. As you're looking at it, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. And essentially that is what weather is, a movement of air masses by the jet stream. Blue extrapolates to low pressure and orange-red extrapolates to high pressure. Now what we see for the coming week to 10 days is that we've got quite a strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic, indicated by these tight lines here, coming across the Atlantic, and we've also got low pressure moving into the UK, indicated by these blue colours here. So it's not great, is it? That's not what you want to be seeing really at the end of June. You want to be seeing the low pressure projection being shoved off up towards Iceland and the north of Scandinavia, but no, it looks like it's coming through the country next week. Now, I have got this bit of a ridge down across the Azores, so that could offer us some protection, particularly in the south. But overall, that does look quite an unsettled looking chart, to be honest, from the ECM WF. And if we have a look at the GFS, which is over here, it's a very similar scenario. Again, we've got these tight lines coming across the Atlantic, indicating the jet stream. We've got troughs of low pressure. No, maybe not quite as deep as we have on the ECMWF, but nevertheless, low pressure is coming in with that jet stream. The ridge down across the Azores could be a little bit stronger and offering perhaps a bit more in way of protection to the south of the country, but overall again that is quite an unsettled looking chart, and with the jet stream being so far south into the Atlantic, that's going to be relatively cool as well, I think. So pretty cool, and perhaps turning more unsettled is how things could be looking as we go through into next week. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, the thick red line just there. And by the way, I am going to get round to doing the ensemble tutorial that I did, but I had to take down because I made a couple of errors on it. I am going to get round to doing that and getting it back up on the website. If you're wondering what's happened to it, it's just a very busy time at the moment with all the other updates that I'm doing at the moment, but I will get round to it at some point in the very near future. Anyway, the red line is the 30-year temperature average, and we can see that we're going to be generally around or below average through the coming week. So this is the 1st of July up here, over here, this takes us to the end of the month. And you can see that overall, although we do pop up a little bit, overall really up towards the end of June, the ensembles are staying around or below the 30-year average. Now these are upper air temperatures. What we have to factor in with this, that the sun is very strong. So whenever the sun is out, it's going to feel warm. It's not going to feel cold at the end of June. generally, perhaps you can get a situation where it would do, but generally when the sun is out at the end of June, even if the upper air temperatures are below average, it's going to feel warm, perhaps even very warm in the sun. But it just on the thermometer, when you have these sort of upper air temperatures, and in the shade, well, of course we record temperature on the thermometer in the shade generally, when that happens, then it is disappointed with the temperature. Although it feels warm in the sun, actually what you're recording isn't all that warm. So it looks like we're going to have a fairly cool period up to the end of July. Now after at the end of June, as we go to the start of July, we do get quite a bit of scatter coming in then. So maybe signs of a little bit of warmer weather coming up for the start of July. I wouldn't want to go too over the top with that because it's a long way off and there is a lot of scatter there, but possibly as we get through to the start of July we could get something a bit warmer coming through. And then you notice these spikes down on the bottom of the chart. These are precipitation spikes. They are coming back quite significantly actually as we go through next week. It does look as though we could bring some fairly regular bouts of rain through. This is for London, down in the south and southeast. So if we bring rain through there, where we're generally protected, of course, from the unsettled conditions in most westerly, southwesterly type scenarios, if we bring fairly regular bands of rain through there, then elsewhere it could be really quite unsettling indeed. If we have a quick look at the ensemble for Manchester, we can see whether that looks a bit wetter. And here it is. You can see there are, again, quite significant rainfall spikes coming through for Manchester. That's perhaps a little bit more representative for northern and western parts of the country indeed. So I think we are seeing the signals there that next week could turn increasingly unsettled and with fairly cool temperatures as well. Obviously not going to be a particularly inspiring week. The temperature anomaly going from the 18th to 26th of June shows that we're going to be generally cooler than average. I think the temperature anomaly for June is going to come out cooler than average. Quite how cool it comes out, I'm not sure. I did a video a couple of days ago saying it could be the coldest June or the coolest June since 1991. It would be a very close run thing whether we get that. I think, but nevertheless it will be a cooler than average June. I can't see much that's going to stop that. The only question is going to be how cool it ends up. So cool temperature anomaly is coming up for the coming week. We're in those blue colours, as is most of Europe. I've explained this in videos recently, but most of Europe is having a pretty dim month, to say the least. The rainfall anomaly, precipitation anomaly for the coming week, going from the 18th to 20th of June, shows that we're going up to around average anomalies. There's still a little bit of red there across parts of northern England, but overall I think we are seeing a signal there for it to turn wetter. It isn't going into above average rainfall yet. This is taking into account the fairly dry conditions that we've got today and tomorrow, and then it'll turn a little bit more unsettled over the weekend, but not desperately unsettled over the weekend. So over the next couple of days I would expect these charts to get wetter than this is showing. So here's the GFS chart for Monday, and we've got low pressure as a shallow trough to the northern country. That could bring some showers through the country on Monday. Pressure is still relatively high down to the south, excuse me, down to the south and the southwest. As we go through into Tuesday, that low pressure moves eastwards and we pull the winds down into the north. That's going to bring a shot of really cool air down across country. There could be showers within that northerly as well. Then pressure tries to build a little bit as we go through into Wednesday. That could give us a better day for Wednesday. But another shallow trough is coming through on Thursday. And that could bring more rain, particularly to the northern part of the country, whereas the south still trying to hang on to that high pressure from the Azores. And then we're going into the Glastonbury period, of course, at the end of next week. So this is for Friday, 26th of June. And by the way, if you're wondering about the Glastonbury updates, I'll be doing another update on the events page. Detailed look at the period on the events page tomorrow evening at around 7 o'clock in the evening. So this is the chart for Friday, the 26th of June, day one of Glastonbury, and low pressure is gathering out to west of the country, and that starts to push in through the course of Saturday the 27th. That could bring quite a lot of heavy rain across the country, that area of low pressure. Temperatures will be cool as well on the cool side of jet stream. And then perhaps a little bit better on day 10, which is Sunday the 28th of June, maybe building a little bit of a ridge from the southwest, although these areas areas of low pressure in the Atlantic look fairly potent, and I expect them to start to roll in as we go through the day. The ECMWF, as we saw on the height anomaly charts, is going to be unsettled. So this is how we start off next week, with low pressure up to the north, high pressure trying to cling on to the south and the southwest. As we go through the week, the conditions start to deteriorate. This is where we are up to midweek next week, and we're bringing shallow troughs through here, but notice we have got a bit of a queue, a bit of a train of low pressures out in the Atlantic, and these start to advance in the second half of next week. So this one on Thursday, the 25th of June, could be bringing some quite heavy rain across the country. We go through to Friday the 26th. The first low pressure up to the northeast. There's more low pressure in the Atlantic. There may be some sort of weather front strung out here, I'm not sure, but along these sort of elongations that we're seeing, there may be a weather front sort of strung out, and depending on where that weather front is strung out, there could be pulses of rain running through. Now, obviously, you don't want that in the south, where we've got Wimbledon and Glastonbury going on. So it's going to be very important if we do get a weather front sort of strung out with ripples of rain running along, pulses of rain running along that front. Be very important as to where that front is later on next week. But it looks unsettled anyway. Even if you haven't got a front strung out, that does look an unsettled scenario with low pressures sort of coming through. Bit of a break as we go through into the 27th of June, so 27th, but day 10, so 28, shows that low pressure coming in again, bringing more wet weather across the country. I am getting increasingly concerned, actually, about the weather next week in light of these events that are taking place. Having a look at the GM, the Canadian model, finally, and the low pressure is in a cross-country start next week, so I think we'll have a showery start next week. Quite cool as well. The low pressure exits to the east, the wind goes into the north on Tuesday 2030 to follow the isobars, but the air is originating from a long way north, from a Arctic source, really. Obviously, it is the end of June, so it's not going to be desperately cold, but it will be cool, and certainly cooler than average if that comes off. That low pressure sticks to the east over Scandinavia. It's got a deep trough through the middle part of next week. Winds still remain in from the north. That's probably cool, or it's certainly cool, and it's probably showery. And then more low pressure later on next week starts to break in from the Atlantic. Maybe get a bit of a break around Wednesday, Thursday, but by Friday, more areas of low pressure starting to break through from the Atlantic, and we finish up on day 10, so 28th of June, still in an unsettled pattern with low pressure, particularly to the north and the east, bringing down these cool northwesterly winds, and there will at the very least be showers within that, maybe even some longer spells of rain. So after a cool but fairly dry June so far, it looks like we could be seeing a deterioration through the course of next week, with conditions turning increasingly unsettled, especially later on next week, just when we don't want it, with a risk of some bouts of rain coming through as well. And the temperatures are going to be on the cool side also, because we're still bringing the air sort of from a northwesterly type direction, which, as I've explained, the Atlantic sea surface temperatures are very cool at the moment anyway, so if the air is coming from a northwesterly direction, the air will be cool. So, yeah, it's not looking great for next week, but it's still a way off, so we'll keep looking at it. It may improve, it may not be as bad as it looks today. It's JMA Friday tomorrow when we'll have a look at the weather for the coming month, and that'll take us through into the middle part of July. So we'll have a look at that tomorrow, come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.